Not to borrow your shtick, Harry, but I do feel like this is a bit of an I was right moment from Tony as well, because you look at so many of the players.
Pretty loud.
You know what I mean? Because you look at so many of the players that he's chosen, and the fact that we're sitting here and saying, I feel really comfortable with all these players, actually. I would trust all of them to come on and do a job. You know, they all have their own little parts to play in this system, blah, blah, blah. That's because over the past 2.5 years, Tony Gustavsson has thrown them into the deep end and forced them to swim. And they've done that. And we saw against England in particular, which was a game that I think it was Caitlin Ford singled out as being sort of the proof that basically the project had worked, because they went into that game with so many injuries to key players, and yet they managed to draw upon the depth that they had built over those years and were able to execute a game plan that worked, and they won the game. So yeah, like it's an absolute vindicate. Like, I know the World Cup hasn't happened yet, and if we get bundled out in the group stage, then obviously it'll be a very different conversation. But like, I've like, he's been vindicated, I think, in just in the way that we feel about this team and the way that we're talking about this team, because there isn't a weak player here. Whereas in 2019, as you mentioned, Harry, there were a couple of players where you were like, they're not going to see the grass. Like, there's no way that they're going to be able to get onto the park, because it's so obvious that there's such a drop between the players who are starting and those players who are backfilling the bench. Whereas here, you could throw anybody on in any circumstance, and you have faith that they're going to be able to do it, because we've seen them do it over the last couple of years.